Hello, everyone. My name is Mickey Spear. I am a musician, talk show host, and an author, and host of tonight's show, The Healing Half. I am so excited to be here today. We've got a packed show for you. It's unbelievable. We're kicking the night off with an amazing musician who's got the most catchy song that I have been stuck in my head ever since I heard it, which is awesome. And then we are going to dedicate the episode as we always do. And then we're going to have a very special guest from the organization SAVE. So SAVE has been super duper important organization in my family and especially my in-laws family's life. So we are just so honored to be able to have Jacob on the show too. So, for those of you who are here, welcome. It is so good to see you. I, again, am just so grateful to be here. We're going to be talking about a heavy topic tonight. So, I just wanted to give a little preface with that. A lot of the nights we talk about are heavy. As a lot of you know, my mom passed away when I was 13, and I spent most of a decade pretending I was fine, that I didn't need any help, and that there was nothing wrong with me, and that I was just a normal teenager. And obviously, you can only run away from grief for so long before it starts to eke out. So I wanted to start a show where we could talk about addressing our own wounds from both a grief perspective, but also from other perspectives like disappointment, fear, chasing your dreams, all good stuff, as well as start a show on how we can help others in those situations. And that tonight is one of those topics, again, I just wanted to give a preface for because it's going to be heavy. Suicide is a big, heavy topic, but we absolutely have to talk about it. So just give yourself extra grace tonight, and feel free to message me after the show if you have any questions. So for those of you who know me, I love music. Music is part of my soul, and I just believe in the healing power of music so much. So when I started this show, I wanted to make sure musicians had a space to be able to share share their songs of inspiration. And so tonight we have a very special guest on to sing that very catchy song. Cannot wait to have her. So everyone, please welcome the one, the only Courtney Yesmine.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you so much. So Mickey asked me to tell a little bit about myself. Well, first of all, I'm broadcasting from a 1970 camper van. My three grown children and I, and the man I love, who's also my music producer, the great Rob Genetic. We're up in Wisconsin in the Great Northwoods. So I didn't want to lose this opportunity, though, to be with you guys tonight. These topics are really important. I feel that music is a healing thing as well. And I wrote this song in the last few months, in March and April, sort of. This song came together during the time that some people in my family, including myself, had some symptoms that we think were part of the terrible virus. And so with a fever and with a lot of fear in my heart, I wrote this new song. I'm going to put it on my new album, which will be my 9th full-length album of original music. Here's the song. I've been calling it Hope 2020. The main thing, my friend, is not to let fear overtake you. And the trouble you've seen, let it not overwhelm you. Keep your heart light. Keep your chin up. Stay open to the possibilities and don't regret anything you've done. You're as radiant as the sun. All you ever gave was your best. Even when your life put you to the test. I know all along you've been blessed. There's no reason to think hope would leave you now when you need it most. You got a big heart and love will see you through. We got enough for the whole world just between us two. So keep your eyes, keep your chin up. Stay open to the possibilities and don't regret anything you've done. You're as radiant as the sun. All you ever gave was your best. Even when your life put you to the test. I know all along you've been blessed.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much! That is just the best song ever, and I think we all need to hear that a million times over. So, Courtney, thank you for your gift. Best of luck on your 9th album coming up. That is so cool. Enjoy the North Woods of Wisconsin for us all, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day once it's safe.
I would love to. I look forward to it too, Mickey. Thank you so much for having me participate.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thank you. And for those of you who are just joining, be sure to keep your eyes on the comments and like the page if you haven't yet, because I try my best throughout the show to send applicable links. So one thing that I just sent in the comment section was a link to the lyrics, or you could read the lyrics, as well as to her page where she posts a lot of blogs and music events and all that great stuff. So be sure to show her some love. Us musicians, we need as much support as we can. So please head on over to her website. That would be so, so, so great. So the next little thing that I wanted to do is just briefly talk about my event coming up. We're just going to ever so slightly touch on it, then do our dedication, then get to Jacob. But we've got this awesome thing happening this Saturday, or I'm sorry, this Sunday, called Grace and Space. And I'm going to solo this so you can see it for 1 second. We have a few spots left, so please, please, please tell everyone, scream it from the rooftops. This is one of the most grief-heavy times, I think, in the history of ever. So this is a time where whether you've lost somebody recently or it's been a while, a lot of people have a lot of resurfacing emotions right now. And this is a perfect socially distanced spot to do that. It's going to be outside on a lake in the shade in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So if you can get there, you just message me. We would love, love, love to have you. And if you have any friends, please let them know too. I posted the link in the comments, and it's just I just have this really amazing feeling from God that it's going to just be awesome. And the people who are supposed to be there will be there. And we're going to play music, go through my book, My Heart Still Remembers, have a lot of great community talk healing time, and so much more little things I don't want to spoil. So if you are free this Sunday, shoot me a message and we will absolutely do. I will see you at Grace and Space. So then the last thing before we get to our amazing speaker is, because grief is such a part of my story, and I know so many of you watching live and watching the replays, say hi if you haven't yet. I love to see all of you guys here. I know that grief has touched so many of us. And so every single episode, I want to make sure we pause and honor that, because in the world today, it is so easy to get distracted and scrolling through Facebook and just kind of meaningless. Not that Facebook's meaningless, but it can get very easy to be distracted and forget that fact that grief is a reality. And so I wanted to spend just a little bit of every single episode remembering that and honoring that. So tonight we are honoring Vera Root. And unfortunately, Tammy, my mother-in-law, was going to come on and speak about it, but we had a little bit of a tech issue. So I can speak to it though, because I got to know Nana for the 8 years that Sean and I have been together. And she was an angel. You can see she's just beaming. She loved her family, and she went so far out of her way to make sure every single one felt special. She would do Secret Santa and would always send secret gifts from Santa from the North Pole for all the kids, and everybody went wild for it. She was an avid water skier for till late into her, I think, 50s or 60s, but she couldn't swim. So that's one of those funny things where you're just like, I don't know how that's possible. But Nana was spunky, an amazing cook, and had the biggest heart. So she died recently. We were able to have her funeral several months after. And like so many of you, it was different than how the family would have liked it, because normally someone is sick and you can see them, but that wasn't really allowed because her family wasn't allowed to visit her in the home. Then she passed away, and then you weren't allowed to gather to have funerals. So if anyone can relate, just give me an amen or something in the comments, because I know from my grandma Merck, who passed away back in late February, same story, right? It's so hard. So I just wanted to let you know, Nana, we love you. Vera, we love you is her name. Diana, thank you for nominating her. She is so special, and I know she meant so very much to you. If anyone on the show is interested in dedicating an episode to a loved one, please just let me know. I would absolutely love to spend a little time and carry out their legacy that way. So without further ado, I've got an amazing guest in my waiting docket named Jacob Mars, and he is from the SAVE organization. So I'm not going to take my word for it. Why don't we hear from him? So Jacob, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mickey. Thank you for having me. And what beautiful music you opened the show with. That was just a great way to start the evening. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Courtney knocked it out of the park.
Yes, she did.
Oh, so Jacob, I know you are so heavily involved with the SAVE organization, but for a lot of us, they don't know what that means. So what is SAVE?
Well, thank you for asking me, and thanks for inviting us and our organization on the show. SAVE stands for Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. And we're a national suicide prevention agency based in Bloomington, Minnesota, that does work, well, really all over the world. And we do a lot of public awareness campaigns, speeches, online resources, and we work with some great organizations and have continued to work with various organizations in furthering the awareness of suicide and mental illness. And having the opportunity to speak with you and those joining us today is really great. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. We are so grateful to have you on our show. And I know I've gone to walks for SAVE, and I've done a couple things with the organization. So it's just so cool. I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity right now. It's like, oh my gosh, they're on my show.
That's how I feel, Mickey. That's how I feel talking to you.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it so much. But in the topic of suicide, why do you think people don't talk about it? Because obviously you guys do such a great job promoting it, but why do we even need that in the first place?
Well, when you look at mental illness, some people will call it the silent disease because you can't necessarily see it. If you break your arm, you can see a cast. If somebody is suffering from cancer, you can see that, and you see these other illnesses and diseases that people come down with, and I think there's that visual aspect. But when it's a mental illness, people still think it's just in your head. And as we continue to educate and provide resources, it's becoming people are becoming more aware that mental illness is just that. It's an illness. It's a disease, and we can work to treat it and help people and get them back to a place where they're happy and feeling successful in what they're doing.
I love that. And I know we could talk about suicide for about 14 hours. So we'll absolutely have you back on the show because it's a big topic with lots of big questions. So we can't, they say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So we're going to take one little bite tonight and dive into it a little bit deeper. But before I ask my next question, I just wanted to preface for the group, for those of you who maybe don't know this about me, my brother-in-law passed away from suicide about 5 years ago. And this was the first exposure I had to it. And having lost a mom to cancer and then losing a brother-in-law to suicide, I know I could talk for 5 hours about the differences between how people treated him. Cancer, like you just said, it's so like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And suicide, it's much more like, this is like, it's just greeted with like a skepticism sometimes, not from everyone, thankfully. So I'm just so about signs of suicide. Any idea on what we need to be aware of?
Yeah, awesome. Well, things to look for generally are we're looking for what's out of the norm. So what are things that are out of the ordinary for that individual? Changes in the status quo could be change in behavior, change in schedule, change in sleeping habits, changes in changes in eating patterns. But if we want to kind of nail down just a few that are important to focus on and very prevalent, one of those is talking about it, talking about suicide, talking about mental illness, talking about wanting to hurt yourself. And oftentimes, these warning signs are not very direct.
Okay.
You have direct things that people may say, such as, I want to kill myself. I wish I were dead. And then you have more indirect. And those are, I wish I could fall asleep and never wake up.
Okay.
You're never going to see me again after tonight. And you look for those verbal cues in what somebody's saying. And a lot of times you do have to read between the lines because people may not come flat out and say it. But what we know is that those who are struggling usually give signs to people. I shouldn't say usually, they do. But it's being able to read those signs and see them. So from what they're saying, from what they're feeling. And there's a few others as well that we can go through.
I love that. And for those of you joining, hi, we're so happy you're here. Thank you for finding us. I'm going to do some video editing and make sure we get Jacob's full, beautiful interview and a nice, cohesive one. So to recap, Jacob, you were just saying about how sometimes when people are planning on killing themselves, they talk about it. It's just maybe not in ways we do. Do you ever find that people don't say anything and that it's truly, they don't say anything to anyone?
Well, in some cases, you're unsure if they've said something because they may have talked to one person about it, or they may have talked to 15 people about it. And they may not go, they may not go to you, but they might go to somebody who they just met or kind of trust. And, but typically they are showing those signs and they are talking about it and expressing those feelings. Because ultimately we know that people that are feeling suicidal are feeling trapped and they feel anxious and impulsivity takes over. And so so a suicidal person doesn't see suicide as a choice. It's viewed as a solution to a problem. And I know when I have a problem in my life, I talk about it. And so we know that people do talk about it. And that's where being able to read what individuals are saying are important. But then there's a few others that we hear of, such as change in sleeping and eating habits. If we're changing our diet or we're changing our schedule to that extent, that it is a sign. Now, it's very normal to once in a while have a sleepless night, or maybe you stay up on a Friday night a little too late and now you got to get something done Saturday morning. That it's normal. But if it's happening consistently where people aren't sleeping or they're sleeping all the time, that's a sign. Along with those changes in eating habits, somebody that goes from eating a regular diet to not eating much at all, or the opposite, they go from a regular diet to essentially binge eating. But those are a few others. And then displaying rage is huge. And I know I'm kind of just running down a few here, but these are the ones that I think are important to pay attention to. Displaying rage and anger and bouts of sadness are also things to look for when it comes to emotional or changes in warning signs.
Okay. Wow. So many thoughts are running through my head right now. And one of the thoughts is as you kind of mentioned, how do you know? How do you know the difference between, oh, I'm just in a funk for a couple of days versus, wait a second, this might be signs. So if we notice somebody and we're like, okay, I watched the show, this person is inexplicably just angry all the time, they're sleepless and like all these things, how do we take that next step and say, hey, I think I need to talk to you about something? Because especially if we're not super close, it could be a very awkward and almost, I guess, my people pleasing mind is saying, oh, don't accuse them of that, they're going to be so mad at you.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first one is that typically it's if somebody's showing 5 or more signs lasting 2 or more weeks. And our website, save.org, has great resources and a checklist, and also a discussion on how do you ask what is the toughest question. And it is a very tough question to ask somebody if they're feeling suicidal. But I would like to step back for a second. Those warning signs that we talked about are not only warning signs for suicide, but also mental illness and somebody who may want to see a mental health professional. When you couple those and you have those 5 or more symptoms for 2 or more weeks, and then you may start seeing some things that are specific to suicide, and that could be stockpiling weapons, or increased drug use or alcohol use, trying to hurt yourself, a previous suicide attempt, and then coupled with these new signs or increase of signs, those can be major warning signs. But I do want to say that just because you're showing change in sleeping habits or eating habits, that you're not suicidal. Maybe it's something else going on. It could be anxiety or stress. And talking to somebody is so important to be able to figure out what the emotions are that you're feeling and what is a good step forward. So I know I didn't answer your question, and I for sure can, but I just wanted to be able to touch on that as well.
No, that's awesome. And I know we've got just a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure we get as much packed in as possible. So thank you so much for your insight on that. The big takeaway that I got from that was just the importance of asking and talking, and it's encouraging them to talk to somebody and saying, hey, if that doesn't sound healthy, you should talk to a doctor. In your experiences, is that enough, or should I make sure I go to the SAVE website and like really read that article?
Great question. And unless you're a doctor, all you can do is be a good friend. And that's what we have to do, is we have to be good friends. We have to be good people, and provide that hope, because providing hope to people who are suffering is a good thing we can do. And when you're to that point where you feel like I have to ask my friend if they're suicidal, we do have some recommendations and tools for you. And I can briefly walk through those with you.
Yeah.
The first one is questioning. So how do you ask the toughest question to ask, which is, are you suicidal? Well, the first one is bring the individual to a calm, quiet place where you're all comfortable. It doesn't have to be with a whole group of people, but make sure you're in a comfortable environment. Because if you're around other people or you're somewhere else and you ask the question, they're going to put a wall up and you're not going to make a conversation. But we do know that people who are suicidal want to talk about it. They want to talk about it. So if you get somebody to that quiet, comfortable environment, then you can be straightforward. You don't have to sugarcoat the question. Are you thinking of hurting yourself? Do you have a plan to take your life? Have you thought about killing yourself? And from there, you can begin that conversation. And it's not a 5-minute chat. This could go on for an hour, 2 hours, and be prepared for that. But let the person express their feelings and trust and believe what they're saying. Because what they see and feel and hear and think could be different from what we see and feel and hear and think, but that's their reality.
Yeah.
So our realities aren't going to be the same. And so if we can listen and ask questions and allow them to express those feelings. So that from there, you go to persuade. It's persuading that person to stay alive and seek help. So the first one is just say, can we go get you some help? Will you come with me? and you hope that they say yes, right? You want them to say yes right away. And if that doesn't work, will you let me help you get help? Will you let me help you get the help that you need? And if that still doesn't work, you want a good faith commitment from them that they're not going to hurt themselves until they've sought help. Okay. And that's where you say, I want you to make me a promise you're not going to hurt yourself until we've gotten you help. And that sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, but getting that commitment from them is a big deal. And then you continue to check in and you try to reach out to resources around them to be that good friend. And by providing the hope, being a good person, staying in touch, you can save a life.
Oh, Jacob, thank you so much. I know your time. You have to get boogieing. Good luck at hockey tonight. Thank you. And for everybody watching, I'm going to recap it here. But Jacob, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go. But I will definitely have you back on the show soon without any tech issues next time.
Can't wait. Thanks again for all you do, and have a great rest of the night.
Thanks, Jacob. So for those of you who are around, it's so good to see you. I am so sorry about that tech stuff. I don't know what happened. I'm going to do some great video editing and smash those two videos together so you can rewatch it in one nice, easy stream. But for those of you who are coming back in, to quickly recap, we had Jacob on from SAVE organization who focuses on suicide awareness, a topic that is very near and dear to my heart after I lost my brother-in-law, Brendan, totally out of the blue. No one had any idea, right? And that's why we need to talk about it. So one of the many topics that we want to talk about is how do we see the signs? Are there signs? What do we want to do? And just to quickly recap what Jacob said for those of you who had to kind of jump from one video to the next, look for sudden changes in behavior. Could be sleeplessness, aggression, changes in eating habits. Could be I'm eating more than usual, I'm eating a lot less than usual, and be an extra good get your magnifying glass out with the comments that people make, because some people will flat out say, they'll just say it, I'm thinking about hurting myself, but most of the time you're not going to get that. So what he was saying is listen for subtleties in there, like little hints, little drops. And if you can, bring that person to a comfortable place, not in the public square by any means. Sit them down, pre-prepared for it to be a long conversation. Don't be in a hurry, and say, I'm worried about you. And then he said, don't sugarcoat it, flat out ask the question, are you planning on hurting yourself? And the great thing is save.com, and I see people are posting the link in the comments, which is awesome because mine's not working right now. So be sure to check out that website. If you have it in your heart to donate, I know that would be so greatly appreciated too. We want to support organizations that do good in the world. So if you're interested in that, check them out. It's a topic that is not talked about nearly enough, and they have some great resources on how to have that conversation. So if you are on my email list, I'm going to make sure I send that specific page out in the email so you can read it and say, okay, what does SAVE organization recommend I do if I'm worried about something or someone? So if you're not yet, head to mickyspear.com, jump on that email list, and I'll make sure I send this and the full video, one swoop, out as well. And if somebody doesn't mind putting that in the comment section, since I can't type it right now, that would be really appreciated. The last little thing that I want to do before we head out is I want to just brag for 4 seconds about my amazing co-hosts. I know it takes an army to plan an event, and it has been such an absolute honor to be able to work with Tammy, my mother-in-law, and Colleen, just an amazing friend that I have made through this journey. And us three are going to be throwing this event this weekend. So just wanted to let you guys know, if you head to my website where you can see Grace and Space, you'll get to read all of our bios. We have all experienced a lot of loss, and we know how scary it is, how terrifying it is to walk into a room of other grievers and feel like you don't know anybody. And what if I cry the whole time? What if? So we want to make sure these two lead grief groups like it's their day job, quite literally. And so we have so many things in place to make sure you don't feel any pressure, that you can participate to the level you feel comfortable with, and that it is going to be a comfortable and safe environment to be able to express our feelings. Because, I mean, mental health is so important to talk about, and unaddressed grief is going to not maybe, it will negatively affect your mental health. So all of this stuff is all interconnected to some way. And I'm not saying it's going to drive you to the point of suicide. Of course not. It's a lot more complicated than that. But I'm just saying it's really important to talk about our losses. And so if you know anybody interested, we are so excited for this weekend. If you, by the next time I talk to you, the event will be completed. So we're so excited for everything. I just wanted to remind, for those of you who can't come and you're like, oh, I wish I could, no worries at all. I'll make sure we do a nice recap of the event and some big takeaways that you can take with you, even though you aren't able to make it. So thank you guys again so much for being here tonight. This topic means the world to me. And I know we all probably know somebody who has passed away from suicide or knows someone who passed away from suicide. And for so long, it was never talked about. And it was this source of shame for the family. And it should never, ever, ever be that way. So join me in changing it by starting to talk about it and really just owning the narrative and changing the narrative. We are so excited to be on this journey together. Can't wait to see you Sunday. And thank you again for rolling with the punches here. Love you all to the end of the world and back. I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.